Broadcasting live from our studios in Newark, New Jersey, in the community of Roseville. Today, we have an esteemed artist in our midst, Dr. Bill Jordan. I hope this interview finds you in a peaceful state and in inspiration. Mr. Jordan, how was your holiday?
Oh, it was great, Bruce. I'm glad you asked. I was upstate New York with my brother at his place. Small, intimate group of people, but very nice. I really enjoyed it. The only problem we had was we just too much food left over. We couldn't eat it all. So it was great, man.
Well, tell me something, where are you from? Exactly.
Well, originally I'm from Mars, but, since I got here on Earth, I'm from Dayton, Ohio.
That was a lead-in question. I kind of wanted to know, where did you develop your interest in your art?
Well, there's a long story and a short story. Understand this, that what my art is, my purpose here is to raise human consciousness. And that probably started when I was 3 years old, because I wanted to raise my own consciousness. But throughout life, because my father was a house painter, he taught me the trade. And so when I was like 16 or 17, I could do a man's work. And he taught me something then. He says, always have a trade to fall back on. And I said, what does this guy know? He didn't graduate high school. But you know what? He was so right. Because after I went to college, grad school, did a Euro law school, what did I end up doing? Painting houses. So, I was painting those walls, man, and it never seemed to get it right. I always wanted to feel good about what I was doing. And then, 20 years of that, doing wall coverings, wall glazings, and stuff like that, I just realized that there's more to it. And luckily, I found it out about 7 years ago. I just started doing, geometric shapes, drawings, and that led to fine painting. And so that's what I'm doing now.
So I was going to ask, though, but how did that interest evolve over the years? And you've kind of given me a number of areas. Can you kind of expound a little bit in one or two of those?
For example, like what?
Well, you said geometrics. What do you mean in particular by that, in terms of the impact or the direction that it's taken you?
Well, that's a good question, Bruce. I'm glad you asked, because it takes me back to 10th grade in Sister Frances Marie's geometry class. And that's so memorable in my mind because, she gave us a thing called a geometry bee. And, you're supposed to be the last guy standing would win. And it was just me and this other guy, Henry Bartoli. I remember today. Henry Bartoli, man. Hi, Henry. How you doing? if you're watching this. He and I were the last guys standing. And I wanted to beat him, but she wouldn't let me. She said, okay, you guys sit down. And I was so upset about that. I said, man, I'm not going to do any more of this work. I can't win at this. I want to be the winner, the undisputed winner. And I'll wait till we start getting into the real geometry, the drawing stuff and making stuff. That never happened. It's all theoretical stuff. So then as a painting contractor, I did wall coverings and I had to do these geometric shapes. I had to go back in my mind, Sister Frances Marie's class, how do you do this stuff, I had to call in my memory and remember how the angles, the ratios, the pies, and all that stuff. So that's how it plays out. For all you guys listening, you young people, that stuff plays out in life, man. It's not a joke. You have to use it. So then from that geometry, from there, really, I started doing wall glazings. And I like that. That's very artistic, like parchment looks, things like that. That's what I started doing. Park Avenue, Sutton Place in Manhattan. Did a lot of those, just a lot of fine painting. So it just evolved, I would do different things. Whenever something new would come out, I'd try it.
Symbolism. How is your work? In what ways does your work reflect symbolism?
Well, that's a good question as well. Bruce, the thing is that you prefer Bruce or Dr. Butts?
Dr. Butts.
Oh, I'm sorry. And you're a doctor of what?
Ingenuity.
Symbolism in that regard is it's very simple. What I do is a reflection of who I am. And so whatever work I do, it's a reflection of me. And that's why as a painting contractor, I would be very sensitive towards feedback that people weren't satisfied, because I'm doing the best I can. And that's sort of liberating when it comes to the fine art, because, I have a greater control over what I do. And I know what I'm saying because I learned from a great guy named Don Victor at the Academy of Composition. You can go there, Academy of Composition, or go to the480.com. I learned composition, and composition is the key to all that stuff. Stuff meaning geometry. Composition is geometry, and all the great masters use geometry. Even though we don't think of it that way. Take Picasso, for example. If you study Picasso's work, at 14, he was a master. You look at his work, if you go under the hood and see how he laid it out, it's all geometry, relationships. So in a way, life is geometry.
Well, does your work have a consciousness, and how do you define consciousness?
Well, let's take the latter first. I will not attempt to define consciousness, because by trying to define it, it's like, it's not what it is. It's just a level of awareness. And every day, our levels of awareness grow. And so consciousness is an ongoing thing. It's not a stagnant situation, in my opinion.
Okay. Are there any particular methods that you care for within that realm of geometrics, within that realm of the painting background that you expressed earlier?
What do you mean, methods?
Methods of application, materials, supplies that you prefer to use.
As a painting contractor?
And not as but more of as an artist.
Oh, you mean my what I do? Well, I'm working on, well, right now, I had an exhibit last year in Manhattan. That was 2015 on 9/11, an auspicious occasion day. And it was two-dimensional work, right? It's called the 13 States of Consciousness, which is based upon the zodiac, the 12 signs plus the 13th. And the 13th is the evolution. Everyone goes through the 12 signs, but then you evolve to the 13th as the next cycle. And that was two-dimensional work. Now I'm working on a similar concept, 13 States of Consciousness number 2, but those are going to be, that's a sculpture pieces. I'm doing sculpture pieces with basically using cardboard form, and over the cardboard form, I'm doing paper mache.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to combine this question: the spoken word, canvas, pottery. In what ways have these art forms influenced you? That is the work of others. How has it influenced you?
Work of others? You mean like, do you have a favorite artist or something like that? Well, off the bat, that's a tricky question. People want to say, who's your favorite athlete? Who's your favorite singer? Blah, 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 blah. I don't have a favorite. However, I like Escher. I like Escher. I like Escher because, he was one of the first guys that really took my awareness, impressed me with his skill. There's a one piece he has where he has this ball, and it's a glass ball, and you can see his face in the work. The level of detail that was required to do that was amazing, level of skill. And so he was one of them. I like Da Vinci, The Last Supper. I like that because of his design skill, of his architectural skills. I like any artist who's really out there on that level. But more than that, I like artists who are really trying to say something. I like the concept of the traditional, or you could call it, African art. I like African art. All those type images, like the mass features, whether it be Easter Island, whether it be wherever, those guys cut it down to the bare bones. It's not about being pretty or flowers and all that stuff. What it's about is the energy that's conveyed through the mask or the image. That's why for me, I call my work conscious raising artifacts. Artifacts are those things that have an impact on your life 24/7. I consecrate my work so that when you buy a piece, it's always broadcasting. It's broadcasting particular energy. And I think that's where I am on that. But I'm not alone. Just that I'm making a conscious statement of it.
Well, let's see. Question. Classical or traditional? What's your preference concerning these two styles of art, and why?
What do you mean by traditional?
You mentioned African art,
Mm-hmm.
and you also mentioned Escher.
Escher, right.
So,
those
two.
Oh, I see where you're going. Well, there's no real difference. They're the same, just different names. In other words, like the Escher work, or let's do it another way. Let's look at Klee, the famous artist Klee. Now his work is African, but they call it European. You look at actually we know that Picasso went to study with Africans to develop his cubism. That's a well-known fact. Right? So it's just the name, traditional or modern, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. There's no difference in it. The difference is, however, is the intention. The Eurocentric intention of art is generally to beautify, whereas the traditional and my intention is to raise consciousness. It's a more spiritual activity.
I'm going to reflect back on something you said a little earlier, about your teacher, your art teacher. And what grade level did you say? High school?
That was my geometry teacher.
Oh, okay.
That was Sister Mary Francis. You can tell I went to a Catholic school.
So were there any other people in your life that influenced, your perspectives?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people, I played football. Father Gilbert, he was one of my early influences. You had to be a tough guy with Father Gilbert. And he was a good guy. I like Father Gilbert.
Well, the channeling and the refining of your skill. When did you specifically direct that towards art as opposed to your vocation?
Well, I guess, that happened about 5 years ago, maybe. It just happened recently where that's the thing about that is like, we're thinking about time today. Time is not what it used to be. Was it 2012? We had the end of the so-called year by the Mayan calendar. And since that time, since that point in the journey of life, time has been compressed. It's going faster now. You ever notice that? Here it is now. What is it? It's December. It feels like we just started last year, right? And time is different now. The Earth is going faster. It used to be traveling at 7.8 hertz per second. Now it's at vastly between 11 and 13 hertz per second. It's a huge difference. And the reason for that is because our sun is not, we're in a binary solar system. There are two suns, our sun and another sun, and these two suns are coming closer to each other. As they do, all the planets start vibrating at a faster rate. So, but anyway, the time now is compressed, not only because of that and because of technology. So what we would take maybe 5 years to do the past, we could do maybe now in 2, if you're into the groove, if you're aware of it.
You sound pretty motivated about that. The science that you just mentioned, how was that reflected in your art?
The science of what?
Well, you were just talking about the rotation of the planet.
Oh, that
speed. It's mentioned the cosmic relationship.
Well, I think that's where I'm headed. That's what I want to do. It's like Sun Ra, right?
Sun who?
Sun Ra. The musician Sun Ra.
Oh,
space is the place. Space is the place. He traveled what? intergalactically. And the idea is to travel intergalactically while you're here. You don't have to, see, look, guys, there's no such thing as death. If you believe that, don't listen to me, right? There's no such thing as death. It's just transformations from one form to another. And what goes with you throughout your transformation is your consciousness, all the experiences you have, right? Now, I can't say, for example, how long that goes on. I don't know. My consciousness hasn't given me that information yet. My earth consciousness is keeping that information away from me right now. But I do know that there is no such thing as death. You just evolve and you keep flowing. So with respect to my work, that's where I shoot for. That's sort of like my inspiration, where I get my ideas from and my energy from.
Okay, ideas, motivation, creativity. Knowing you personally, I know that you've been around the globe. You've spent quite a bit of time outside of the country.
True that.
Tell me something personally about you as to where has this journey taken you?
Good question. When I was younger, I was always looking to travel outside the country as a way to expand my knowledge. And I guess the last time I was out, that was in like 2002, right? That's when the World Trade Center happened, 2001, 2002. Right. So I was I left the country around 2002, and I was traveling between London and Indonesia for about 2.5 years. And when I went to Indonesia, I would go there for special training. Special training mean we go to these high mountains, we go to these caves. We do this stuff, man, for inner peace strength. Learned a lot of good stuff. And I won't get into this is a talk for another time, but the result is I don't have to travel physically anymore. I can travel mentally. For example, right in Newark, there's a cathedral called the Sacred Heart Cathedral. Now, all you guys who, and Sacred Heart Cathedral is a Catholic cathedral. Don't panic. I'm not trying to convert you to any religion. The thing is that cathedral is an energy source. It's not a place of worship per se. It's an energy source.
As in a power plant of some type?
Yes, exactly. Well, you said that. And so, for example, like during when Obama was getting elected, every night I would tune into the cathedral, and the cathedral, underneath the cathedral would be all a golden light would light up the whole eastern coast. It would go from the eastern coast over to the pyramids in Egypt. Okay, it was a gold flow, and so like that's what I do. That's how I do it, and it's. I don't want to take it too far out because you might be incredulous to my story.
Well, let's come back down to earth a little bit. The Hawaiian experience.
Great, yes.
There's a lot of indigenous art there.
That's true. And
right. Its impact on you was in what way?
Well, it must have been subliminal because those are some of the things I do. I do pattern myself after that subconsciously, like the Easter Island thing. But here's the thing that most people don't recognize. You ever see a real Hawaiian?
A real Hawaiian?
Yeah.
Like Jackie Chan or...
Jackie Chan's Chinese. He's not Hawaiian.
He's not Hawaiian?
No.
Get out of here.
He's Chinese.
What is a real Hawaiian?
A real Hawaiian?
Yeah.
A real Hawaiian looks like you.
Like me?
Dark skin.
Oh.
If you look at a picture of Duke Kahanamoku, he's dark like you. That's the real Hawaiian. Now you got these nouveau Hawaiians, and please, I know the guys in Hawaii will lynch me. I'm telling the truth and you know it. The nouveau Hawaiian is what? I'm Filipino, I'm this, I'm this and that, and this and that. That's a combination, that's an aggregate. But the traditional Hawaiian is a dark-skinned person. The last royal ruler was Queen, I forgot her name, but you look at the older history books, you'll see she's dark. The newer one, she's light. They changed that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm saying all this to say that when I was in Hawaii, it was a big deal about color. You would think that in Hawaii, you'd be free. Nah.
Not in Hawaii?
Nah. They got a color thing going on over there. All right? I won't get into that because I want to offend anyone. but that's the truth.
Well, the art of Hawaii, how is it distinguished from the art of other parts of America?
Well, it depends what you mean. Traditional art, there is no distinction, because if you go, there's a museum in LA, right near the Coliseum. If you go in there, when I was there, they had this big exhibit on the wall showing you the trail from Zanzibar all the way to the Pacific. And if you look at the artifacts that they show you, for example, the stool that the king would sit on, the same stool in Zanzibar exists in the same stool throughout the Pacific. It's the same thing. So therefore, you can conclude that the same people made that journey. All right. And if you go even further, you look at, now you have two different ways of looking at the North American indigenous art. You have people coming from the northern part, and you have people who are already here from the southern part. Take, for example, major issue is the Olmecs. That's, the Olmecs, man. Think about that. Most people don't even know who the Olmecs were. And the Olmec is not their real name. Olmec means they're rubber people. If you read They Came Before Columbus by Van Sertima, he alludes to the fact that they came from Africa. Whether they did or they didn't, they were here before Columbus, and their art ties into Easter Islands, ties into all that trip from Hawaii. It's all the same stuff. You look at the African art, Easter Island art, they're similar. There's really, slight variations, but it's the same thing. And that goes into the fact like this. The reason why is because, look, they got 3 islands. And on this island, they got monkeys. Now, the monkeys, they have peanuts, right? So how do the monkeys figure out how to open the peanuts? Well, to say that the monkeys on island A, they would go down to the water and, put their peanuts in the water, and that would make them soft so they could open them up easier. The question is, how did the monkeys on island B and C learn the same thing? There's something in the energy. And we look at that in human experience. We look at all the times during the medieval time, let's call it European medieval times, that's comparable to the time in Japan, the feudal times of the Tokugawa. You know what I'm saying? The sword play, all that stuff. It was around the world, basically the same thing, same idea, which means that what? We have this ability as human beings to to transport ideas, not through physical means, but through mental ideas, through in theory. Yeah, go ahead.
So is that to say that art transcends in the same way from one place on the planet to another?
Well, in those situations, yes, but that wasn't art. Those artifacts were just artifacts. They were for functional purposes. Now today, yes, that's true because of the technology, but it's for a different purpose. Very few artists actually do work for the purpose of artifacts, for spiritual journeys. Very few. It's for the beauty. Nothing wrong with beauty. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with beauty. Yet, it's not the same.
Question. Are there any special themes coming up in your art? Any new projects you're considering?
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, there is. I did an interview with a lady, and as a result of the interview, I came to the conclusion that I have to go back and revisit my Enneagram. And for those who don't know, Enneagram means 9 shapes, 9 forms, and it's based upon the personalities. And so there are 9 different basic personalities or character types. And everyone has one dominant one and maybe 3 or 4 subdominant ones. Depends upon your state of mind or what you're doing. So I want to do a series on the Enneagram. So it'll be 9. I think the first series will be 9, then maybe I'll expand it to 18, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, I'm going to get back into Enneagram. And that's going to be interesting to try to craft images that represent each character.
And that'll be a part of your next exhibition?
Yeah, I'm looking to do that, and I'm looking to do that by September 2017.
Well, I'd like to revisit one other point.
Okay.
And that's the 13 states of consciousness. You mentioned it. It sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish you could expound on it a little bit more.
Well, what do you mean? Like the concept or the work, or what do you mean?
For our listening audience and our viewing audience, who may not be familiar with it, what it is, how it's applied, how it's projected.
Okay, well, if I had known that we were going to ask that, I would have had my images set up. But what it is, that it's very simple. It's, there are 13 states of consciousness. For the patriotic people out there, think about the 13 original states. Why were there 13? I know, it just happened that way? No, it didn't happen that way. It was planned that way. 13. Look at our money. You have 13 stars around the pyramid. 13. That's the way it's set up. All right. It's Masonic, as you guys call it. Right. And so the 13 it really is just the way life is. It's always evolving. You're like spiraling up. But you go through all 12 signs. It takes 2,500 years for each sign. And you as a spirit do that. And then you reach you're finished, you go to the next one, you start over again at a higher level. You're always evolving.
So that's one thing I guess we can take from this interview, is that you are continuing to evolve as an artist and as a spirit. That's
right. We can also add to this. It's not only me, it's the whole process. Now, what I want you to do is just, everyone, before we sign off, I want you to just be quiet for a couple of seconds, close your eyes, and feel yourself in harmony with the planet. And when you're in harmony with the planet, then I want you to feel the planet as it moves in harmony with the solar system. And then take the solar system and move how that moves with the galaxy. Everything is always moving. There's no static situation. It's always a continuum.
I can feel it.
I can feel it. Yes, that's right. It's real. So, and we didn't get into like why I talk to trees or I talk to plants or anything like that, because that's a topic for another conversation.
Well, Dr. Jordan, we appreciate your time with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
And you have enlightened us. And indeed,
I hope so.
You have expanded our states of consciousness and awareness.
All right. Very good. Very good. All right. So I guess that's all we have to do now, right?